KPFB LP 98.1 FM presents Changing the Planet One Mind at a Time, PM with your host, Gail Gia.
Change the world one mind at a time. One mind at a time.
Okay. Hello, this is Gail of Gaia, and today we have Dr. Glenn with us here again. And we're going to talk about a very interesting subject. You may not think it's interesting at first, but we have found out some very fascinating facts about water. And I have a little quote for us today that was quoted by Frank Lloyd Wright, and that says, "I believe in God, only I spell it nature." And that is what we'll talk a little bit about, because the nature of water is rather fascinating. Okay, Dr. Glenn, how are you today?
Well, I'm good. I'm still trying to recover from my 2-week
I feel so
trip.
sorry for you.
But yeah, I would like to add something to that quote.
Oh, please
and
do.
The definition of believe is to accept on faith without proof. So if someone asks, "Do you believe in God?" I like to say no.
Oh, I bet that gets a reaction.
Yeah, because I kind of like to shock people, and then I tell them, and then I explain to them, the definition of believe is to accept on faith without proof. Just open your eyes, look around. There's plenty of proof. I know there's a God.
That's why I like that. Yes, I know there is too. And besides, we look at that word believe sometimes, and guess what's in the middle of it? It says lie, so that's always a little scary. But anyway, let's talk about water. And water, they're now talking about it as being the fourth phase of water. Could you explain that for us?
That was primarily discovered by Dr. Gerald Pollack, Pollack. He's with the University of Washington, doing water research, and he discovered that we've all accepted in science that there's three phases of water. There's liquid, there's gas, and there's solid, frozen state. What he found is there's actually a state between the frozen and the liquid, and that's what we call the fourth phase of water. And what that is it's structured a little differently. Everybody knows water is H2O. Well, that's more purified water, and that's the scientific definition of water. Mm-hmm. But what our body uses is a different form of water. And H2O means two hydrogens, one oxygen. Well, the water that our body likes and uses is H3O2. And those molecules combine differently into a hexagonal structure, whereas H2O, or just purified water, structures into a five-sided cluster, or five-sided crystal, and mm-hmm. clusters that way, which is something our body can't even use, and it's really not something found in nature. So all this stuff that we've been making, and reverse osmosis, and this purified and distilled, and all these things people have been thinking have been good for years, we're discovering aren't really that good after all.
Isn't that disappointing? We do different things and we think that is really good for us, and then we find out, oh, wait a minute.
I've been killing myself all these years.
Exactly. It's rather frustrating at times, and the same happens with different things in the way they're like. Let's talk about alkaline water. How does that come into play here?
Well, you can make alkaline water just by adding minerals. You want about 50 to 70 parts per million for it to be actually useful in the body and healthy, but it's not negatively charged. It doesn't have a negative ion charge to it. And that's where we go into Pollack's work, because he discovered that there is a zone that occurs next to a hydrophilic surface, which hydrophilic means water-loving, rather than hydrophobic would be water-hating or afraid of it. Yeah.
Okay.
So in a close proximity to that hydrophilic surface, even no matter how dirty the water may be, full of bacteria, viruses, and particulate matter, you get a zone where there's clear water. And he calls that the easy, or the exclusion zone.
Yeah, that easy water. That I like the name of that. That was really cool.
And I like his sense of humor that in his lectures is, I call it easy because call it the exclusion zone, and it's also easy to remember.
Exactly. That's cool.
But the interesting thing about that, not just that it's clean, but that it's negatively charged and it's hexagonal. It's that structure that it's H3O2 in that zone. I don't know that he's figured out how to pull a large quantity of that water off. The membrane that is used in that is very, very expensive and very fragile. It's easy to destroy. So it's not something that lends itself to home use or mass production at this point. But it's really fascinating that what he's discovered, it adds scientific, unrefutable scientific proof that what so many of us whack jobs have been talking about for so long. And, I've been looking at water for almost 20 years. And
Yes.
back then I'd hear about energized water, structured water.
Micro water.
All this, yeah. And I'd try to find it. And this before the internet was so proliferant. Thank God for the internet in many ways, but there's a lot of false information you need to be leery
but I
of
couldn't
as
live
well.
without it because it's my library, even if
Yeah.
I have to sort through some of the false information.
I can get more
It's-
research done in a matter of days or weeks that would have
Rather
taken
than having to
years
run to the
done.
library every time. Yeah.
Or try to go to seminars or whatever. It was so hard to get the kind of information we have at our fingertips these days.
I know, it's awesome. I love it.
But like I say, it's so easy to put out disinformation as well.
Yes, and we
So you have to comb
unfortunately
through
we
it.
have agents doing that, and especially that seems to happen when you have good information too. You'll get a bunch of
Naysayers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deniers
and some of
typically
them
have
are
no
paid
scientific
to do
basis.
that too. I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry
Oh,
to
yeah,
say. Yeah. But anyway, back to the water.
Yeah, back to the water.
It's the water our cells use, correct?
Yes. Our bodies are actually full of hydrophilic surfaces, the cell membranes, that we have these little organisms that we still don't understand if we
Fully.
learn to coexist with them or if they're actually part of the cell. They live in our cells called mitochondria.
The powerhouse of the cell.
That's right. They produce a chemical called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. Maybe you've heard of it.
Oh, yes,
And
very much so.
that's our energy molecule. Without it, you die.
Yes. Or don't have any energy at all. Blah.
But what's
Anyway.
interesting is within the mitochondria, there's folds, so there's a higher surface area within it.
Yes,
And-
whenever they have like those
yeah,
little
little-
villi and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the gastrointestinal
And-
tract, very similar.
But
type
all of
surface.
that is hydrophilic. So we're creating this water within our own body. Now, and that's all negatively charged. The positive charges are sort of pushed to the into the between spaces, and our body is flushing those away and getting rid of them. The problem is everybody's drinking this purified and positively charged water.
And they don't know it, but
That's right. They think, "Oh, I'm doing good here."
Yes, I'm one of them. There was a period of time where I bought bottled water because I wanted clean water to drink, and clean water is not easy to find these days.
Yeah.
But anyway, that point being made, then we kind of moved into the alkaline water, knowing that our body prefers alkaline.
And then there's, of course, the argument, well, you're dropping that alkaline water into an acidic environment, it gets neutralized in the stomach, it does you no
yes.
good.
You can't win sometimes.
Well,
That's where-
that's true, but it still benefits you. Here's how.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Glenn. I want to hear it, and so does our audience.
And-
Explain to us.
And this helps with a balanced stomach. It helps with a stomach that doesn't produce enough acid, and it helps with a stomach that is producing too much acid. And if we'll start with too much acid. You pour this alkaline water in, it helps to neutralize the acid. Now, your stomach can't deal with hyperacidity or excessive acid. The result can be ulcers, that sort of thing from that. So this water can benefit that. Now, understand too, now that the next step is how we get the alkaline into our body. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction in all things. So if we're producing acid in the stomach, there's an alkaline buffer that goes into the blood. So you're drinking alkaline water, you're not getting that water directly into the blood in its alkaline state, but because of what happens inside the stomach, you dump just as much alkaline buffers into the blood on the opposite side of the stomach. The inside of the stomach is producing acid. And basically, to simplify things, the outside of the stomach is producing an alkaline. So there's that opposite reaction, and that alkaline goes into the blood. So if you are basic or your stomach is balanced with your acid, then it's just going to drop your acid count a little bit, so your body produces a little more. Then you get the alkalinity into the blood. If your stomach is low in acid, it knows already that it should be producing more. The alkaline water can help kick it into gear and produce more acid. So I know there's been a lot of naysayers, and a lot of people have said, "Oh, that alkaline water, it's a farce. You can't get it in your system." You don't get it directly in your system. That's correct. Mm-hmm. So let's give them the credit where credit. Okay,
but
you got that part right, but they missed the other point.
2 points, really. You tell your point, and I'll tell you my point.
Okay, was it with the minerals?
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to go there.
Okay. We're on the same page on that, because our mineral supply for our body is really diminished. We don't have mineral in the soil. We're exposed to a lot of glyphosate, which also chelates the minerals, making them unavailable. So when you drink alkaline water, even if it's not the ideal form, which we were talking about, and we'll tell you more about, at least you're getting some additional minerals, and that's a good thing.
And well, and if you're drinking the purified water, it's actually leaching those minerals. Purified water it doesn't occur in nature. It needs to be diluted with something. It knows it, so it will draw things to itself. So if you're pouring that in your gut, it's extracting minerals from your body. It could be your bones, could be anything else. Mm-hmm. So you're actually becoming mineral deficient by drinking this pure water. And actually, too, because your body can't use it, it actually has to expend energy to change it from a 5 cluster to a 6 cluster. You can be dehydrated and drink 2 gallons a day of that stuff. You can still be diagnosably dehydrated and drink that much of the wrong water. So you don't have to drink as much of the right water. It goes right into your cells. Your body can immediately use it without burning more energy to convert it into something that it can use. So now that way you can clean the positive charges out easier. It just makes sense to drink a negatively ionized water.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And this new phase of water is even more fascinating, because you can actually drink
phase.
The water that is been structured in such a way that your body cells will drink it right up.
There's different, and I haven't experimented with this yet. There's some people selling these little funnels that vortex the water, mm-hmm. and that'll give you a negative charge for a short period of time with basically any water. So you need to consume it immediately. Mm-hmm. The beauty of this product that we talked about yesterday is that it's the only product that I know of that has been able to structure a negative ion water and stabilize it for bottling and for sale. No other water on the market actually has the negative ions. There's only one that I know of that is naturally alkaline. Now there's it's becoming popular, and I haven't run those tests for years, but mm-hmm. Years ago I did take, I don't know, it's 10 or 12 bottled waters. I just bought them all.
Yes, I wanted to hear it. I wanted you to tell that story, because that's very interesting. And that's something you can even do at home with, mm-hmm. with a pH strip.
And well, you don't want to use a strip. Strips are very inaccurate. You want to get the drops. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Where do you find them?
You get them online. Just pH drops. I'd look that up and get it. I
didn't realize that the drops were more accurate than the...
Yeah, it colors the water a certain color, then you refer to a color chart to see where the pH lies.
Come to think of it, I have seen that. You don't see the drops available. You might see the strips available more readily.
Right.
But anyway,
the strips, just for water, the strips are they're more accurate just dipping it in water than trying to test your body pH. Don't even attempt to test your body pH with a strip. You've got to go to other measures. But anyway, so I did all this testing, and all but one, that is not this other water we'll mention, all but one were all very acidic, because they're all just purified. The only one, and I'm not plugging them, but the only one is Arrowhead, and it was about pH 7.3, maybe 7.5 at best, mm-hmm. which means neutral is 7. I know people may not know what the pH scale is.
Okay. Please explain that.
Below 7 is acid. Above 7 is alkaline. 7 is just neutral. So all of these other ones were way below 7. So now we're pouring all this acid into our body, and our body has to overcome that and then attempt
We
to
won't even talk
restructure
about
it.
the acid nature of our diet. That's a whole nother story.
Oh, don't ever drink sodas.
No, I don't. I quit soda many, many, many years ago because of what I learned about it.
But then like I say that, and when I saw that, I anticipated. I knew it was going to happen. I knew all the bottled water was already acidic, but I had to satisfy myself, so I did the tests.
Did you by any chance test the difference between a bottle that has, say, sat out in the sun for a period of time versus a bottle you just purchased?
No, I haven't.
Because the plastic leaches into the water, which is a whole nother issue, which why I was wondering if maybe that even makes it even more acidic.
I don't think it would. I don't.
But
That would be an interesting experiment to run. See if
Maybe
there's
we'll have to
a
try that
noticeable-
sometime
Yeah,
and report back.
yeah.
I just
But
know there's
the-
a very distinctive, different taste in water if it's been sitting around for a while. The bottled water I'm talking
Right.
about.
Yeah.
And it's not a good taste.
Well, the bottled water to begin with is already dead. Your
Yes.
body can't use it. It has to be converted by your body before it can use it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only one that is structured properly is this real water.
That's actually the name of the water, people.
That's that
Just so you know that.
that's a trademark brand name, and they're actually based out of Las Vegas.
Wow.
And there's 3 bottling plants I think in the U.S. right now. They have plans for 15, but somehow, and I know the fellow that stumbled on to the formula that stabilizes it, and I told you the story yesterday. He stumbled onto it and was
This is
tired.
funny.
It was kind of late at night, and he's in his lab playing with things, trying to figure out how to stabilize the negative ionization. Because you can buy these ion machines and spend a lot of money, and it creates negative ion water. But at best, it's only
very
good
expensive.
and they're very expensive. But at best, that ionization might last a couple of days, but it's deteriorating the whole time. So, John Marlowe is the guy who discovered this. He, excuse me, he was playing around with different things, and he left his ORP. ORP stands for oxidative reduction potential. Left his meter in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm tired. I'm going to bed. He gets up the next day and he goes in his lab, and the number hadn't changed. He's like, "Oh my
And he would
gosh, this
expect it to
this should have been dropped to zero almost." You know?
Yeah.
And it's like he couldn't remember what he
he
did.
did.
it took him
That's
3
funny.
months. Took
Yeah,
him 3 months to finally figure it out.
Oh my Lord, that's hilarious. That sounds like something I would do. Oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah. Well, that's the trouble. You start kicking around ideas and you don't write notes. You take diligent notes because your
Yeah.
mind's going a million miles a minute, and then when you hit it, you go, "Oh God, how did I get here?"
Yeah, either that or you've been doing it for. You start out doing real diligent notes, and then after a while you keep testing and testing and testing, and then so you kind of start getting more and more lax with taking your notes, and
Yeah,
that's
it's like-
when something.
That's
will
when it
happen.
hits. That's right.
Never fails. But anyway,
But and another interesting thing with the negative ion water that we should be drinking, I had an idea that based in science, but we don't have any a lot. Well, I shouldn't say any. We don't have a lot of science to substantiate this, but radiation and so many of the drugs and pollutants and all these things, viruses and bacteria that are pathogenic or disease causing, they're all positively charged.
yes, I'm glad you moved into that category or that area because people need to understand why is it so important for the alkalinity or the negative charge? Why is it important for our health?
Well, the alkalinity is, like I say, that's easy to achieve. It's the negative ions that are even, hesitate to say, but I would say even more important than the alkalinity of the water. Because our body,
Oh,
it's
yeah, I see what
the
you're
water
saying.
is structured so
Yeah.
that we can absorb it and use it
Okay, I know what you
without
mean.
stressing our body to try to. I mean, people think they're doing something good by taking in a lot of water, and it can be a stressor because it's poison to the body. It has to change it before it can do anything with it. So you're overworking the body, and you think you're helping
doing
your body
something
by
good.
pouring a lot of
Yeah.
water in it.
And
It
if you
just-
happen
it's-
to have some kind of metabolic problem that doesn't convert as readily, or who knows, I'm sure that can just add additional stress to the body too.
yeah.
So-
It makes the disease worse, and you can't figure out why.
And the funny
Yeah.
part of it is in nature, nature actually makes water that way when it comes from the high mountains and
Well,
the,
you've seen the bugs that walk on water, and
yes, and
you've-
that
and
lizard
the
we
Jesus
were
lizard,
talking
yeah,
about. Yes,
yeah,
I was
the
looking
lizard
at
that walks on
yesterday.
water.
Yes. Have
Well,
you
we
heard
know
of that,
that's
people?
well, that's surface tension. Science always accepted that the surface of the water has a different surface tension than the rest of the water. But what Pollock's work exposed was the surface tension is different, and that the surface tension is true, but we're missing something there. What we're missing is that top layer of the water is structured differently. That's the H3O2.
Aha.
And
There's
it's
always a reason for everything.
and that's that fourth phase, and it's a phase between the liquid and the solid. It still flows and looks like liquid, but it's actually a phase between those two. So that's how bugs can be on the surface.
Yeah, they scoot
That's-
around on the surface like they're
I
skating.
always wondered when I was a kid, how
Yeah, I
those
did
bugs,
too.
why don't they
How
drop?
can they do that? Yeah, that's funny.
But the with streams and all, there's this vortexing effect and the churning in the water that helps not only to clean it, but it helps to restructure that into the easy water. And I'm sure with the moss and all in there, those are hydrophilic, so it helps to create this easy water. And I'm convinced that what Real Water discovered was a way to mass produce the same thing. Now, they have not been able to get Pollock to test that and confirm it. Hopefully someday he might show enough interest to do
I
that.
heard him talking one time that it's very difficult to get, especially the government or other people to fund water research because they act like they think they already know everything about water, and obviously they don't.
Well, water is water, and the cleaner the better.
Yeah, H2O
Nope.
is H2O. Well, wait a minute.
Nope.
And he really is an expert. He has a book on water. He's an editor
Yeah.
for a water magazine.
Yeah.
And
And
he's been
he's a
doing the
university
research for
researcher.
years.
Yeah. He's done a lot of good work. And
Yes, he has.
this is a major discovery.
Yes, it is.
And it's something, like I said, it's something that substantiates something that's been said for a long time. Like I said, I've been looking at water for almost 20 years. And finally, all those dead ends started coming together. And that's when I bought my first alkaline water machine. And
I always wanted one, but I
they are
didn't have
costly.
the funds
Yes.
for that. They're very expensive.
And you need to have the minerals in the water, otherwise it can't charge it. And with this Real Water, the only thing that's in it is, when you do a lab testing, is magnesium, potassium.
Excellent minerals to be there, I would
Right.
say.
But somehow he's able, through all that, and John will not disclose, because it's proprietary.
With good reason.
With good reason, yeah.
He
Because
has not
everybody
gotten
else
a
would be doing
patent
it.
on it either, right?
Well, if you do a patent, you have to. That's why Coca-Cola.
Exactly.
You look at Coca-Cola; it's always patent pending. They just keep renewing the pending, because if they do a patent, they have to disclose their formula.
What's in it? Okay.
So they're always patent pending. I don't even know if John's done a patent pending. He's just keeping it, his cards close to his vest.
Mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mum's the word.
and they do bottling for other companies that are selling alkaline water as well. So you may be buying that water and not even know it.
But he must.
It will say
the-
alkaline water on the bottle, because of course they want to.
Okay.
They wanna
But would it
advertise
be
that.
the same as the real water?
As not quite.
Okay.
I think they.
So that
I
would
think
be a
they'd-
little more bang for your buck, you might say.
Yeah, they don't quite make it as good for the
Okay.
private labels as they do for the Real Waters.
Okay.
Is
Well,
my
that-
opinion.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
my thoughts on it,
yeah,
and the kind of
that's-
things that I've heard.
that's
It's like,
understandable.
okay, well, I get it. Yeah, well, why would you? Why would you do that and maybe even kill your own brand?
This is true. This is true.
That's just business. But the interesting thing is all those positive charges. And I was thinking, with this Fukushima thing going on and all this radiation we're exposed to, and
That's
the
scary.
chemtrails and the
Yeah.
the radio waves and all, it's all negatively charged, or it's
Positively
positively charging our bodies. Being in a negatively charged environment, like around waterfalls and that sort of thing, or
Beautiful
even
places
better,
like Hawaii.
yeah. I miss it already.
I know. When I went there, I never wanted to come back. Tell you the truth. But anyway,
Okay, should we spill the beans? We didn't say anything 2 weeks ago because I just didn't. But I just spent the last 2 weeks on Kauai.
yeah. lucky duck. Anyway.
So yeah, that's a whole nother discussion on the
Yes.
the negative ions. The whole place is a negative ion generator, and then we have the mountains and the scalar and the whole. But that's another show.
Yes, definitely.
But my thoughts were, well, then if we can expose ourselves to the negative ions, they scavenge the positive ions. Drinking it should reduce the effects of radiation on our bodies and help scavenge that. And it was theory until, in some reading, I discovered, and it's the only thing that I've found so far. So it's something that's obscure, and I don't know why it hasn't been researched more thoroughly. The Russians back in the early 60s.
The Russians are
I think
ahead
it was,
of the Americans in
in
many
a lot
areas.
of ways. A lot of ways.
Yes, and yet they're always Russia bashing, and I'm going, oh
Well,
my
see,
goodness.
they don't have the financial interest of big corporations
Exactly.
interfering with. Oh no, we don't want that advancement coming forward because
But I'm
that'll
reading
hurt our
that the
pocketbook.
cabal has fallen, and I hope that's true. But anyway, that's another story for another show, too.
Yeah. But they actually did research because of a. Let me see if I can find out. I wrote that down.
Well, you
I'll
know-
probably butcher it because it's Russian. Anyway, a Russian town that got heavily dosed with
Chernobyl?
radiation. No, it's
Oh.
another one.
Okay.
And they did research on these people using negative ion water.
Okay.
And in fact, their conclusions were that it does in fact neutralize and remove the effects of that positive charge radiation.
Well, let's expand on that thought a little further. I was listening to one of the YouTube videos that Dr. Pollack had put out, and he was speaking in reference to someone with kidney disease, or their kidneys were failing terribly, and they started using this water, and they got healed.
Well, any number of metabolic malfunctions can happen when you're basically dehydrated or you're in an acidic state. Our bodies, in fact, they know when a cancer patient is getting better, they're going to start coming back up the pH scale. Their body's acidic when the cancer's running rampant. So we know that the body needs to be alkaline, and it's just a little alkaline. It's not pH 10 or something like that. You'd be dead at that point. So
That's too much alkalinity
Right.
can cause problems too. It's just
And-
like there's always needs to be a balance.
Right. But understanding, and it's hard to explain, especially on the radio. It'd be hard enough to try to condense this into a short lecture, even with a dry erase board. But our cells are trying to conduct a lot of functions. They're trying to conduct a lot of chemical reactions.
It's actually miraculous what our body
yeah.
is able to do.
Yeah. And then it all happens all together, and that ties back right into chiropractic because it's all combined and coordinated by the brain through the nervous system that passes through your spine. And that's why I adjust your spine, so that your brain can communicate with the body and help orchestrate all these reactions that are supposed to be taking place all day long, every second of our lives, reproducing, detoxing, rebuilding. I mean, it's amazing what's going on every second. And there's just, the water is important to help that. If it's not charged properly, if it's not structured properly, our body just can't use it. It's dead. So now we've got building up all these toxins, and it doesn't have the materials it needs to conduct its chemical reactions, and the end result is disease.
Yes,
And-
it's small wonder. I mean, when you think about all the toxins that we're being exposed to nowadays, and in our water,
In our
seems like
food,
it's
in our air.
increasingly polluted.
Yep.
And look what happened with the lead in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
And what was I just
I
read
know
something
people that
about
grew
that
up there.
too, that the pharmaceutical companies raised the price on some drug which has something to do with helping you rid lead from the body. But that doesn't
Wonderful.
surprise me.
Yeah, no surprise. But the interesting thing with the kidneys is people think that, oh, I got kidney stones. I had too much calcium. I got to quit eating calcium and stop drinking milk, stop taking my supplements, or whatever. Do we need to go to break?
I think we have about 30 seconds and we'll go
Okay.
to break.
Well, we can.
Finish your thought. I'm sorry, I didn't
Okay.
mean to interrupt you.
Well, it goes on. I was thinking maybe we should pick that up on the other side of the break, but and it's in fact is not from excess calcium. It's from too much acid, and if we're there, I'll pick that up on the other side of the break and explain
Yeah,
it.
acid is a real problem, and our bodies are very acidic, and the nature of our diet is very acidic, most people anyway, and that needs to change. So we do have to go to a little break, and we'll be back shortly, so tune in. when we come back. Thank you.
You're listening to
98.1 FM, where freedom rocks your boat. 98.1 FM KPFV presents the Seventh Amendment Hour, Thursdays at 6 p.m. Your host, Gary Bergman, and co-host Mike Noyes. The discussion of the Fifth and the Seventh Amendments.
Good afternoon. This is Gail of Gaia, and we're here with Dr. Glenn, and we're talking about water and the newest thing that they've discovered about water and how it can help our bodies. So, where did we leave off?
We left off with the kidney stones.
Yes.
And people think that it's calcium-based, but what it is too much acidity, and your body's trying to protect itself by building an alkaline mineral around it, diluting it with an alkaline mineral. So it brings calcium in. And in your kidneys, it's irritating the kidneys because you're trying to excrete this acid water, and the body says, "Well, let's."
I understand it's very painful too.
Oh, kidney stones!
Yes.
Thank God I've never passed one.
Me either.
I
Thank
know,
goodness.
me-
I've heard about them though, and I'm going, "Oh
I've known
wow,
lots
I'm
of
glad I don't
people
have that problem."
And it just what amazes me is people say, "Oh yeah, I heard it go tink tink in the toilet when it came out."
Ooh.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, that's a,
So anyway, what happens is you start depositing this calcium, and then the same thing with gallstones as well. It's not that
it's an acidic nature of the
you're eating and drinking the wrong
systemic
stuff.
acidity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your body doesn't build this stuff naturally, and that so much is connected. And I find relationships with the spine as well.
Well, our
The
meat
nervous
and
system is
potatoes
weak.
diet wasn't exactly the best.
No, yeah, that
style of
that
eating.
food pyramid was created by the people wanting to sell you that stuff.
Exactly. I've always had problems with that, but you're forced to abide by it when you are a dietitian in a healthcare setting.
Oh.
And if you rock the boat, they don't like it. But anyway,
You're not working as a dietitian
exactly,
in the hospital for
that's
long.
why I'm not working there anymore, because the truth is the truth, and I'm not going to be a party to something that's a lie.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So anyway, if you drink, especially with the kidneys, because there's so much of this water that flushes through that. If you're drinking the right water, then you have little or no risk of forming any kind of kidney stones, no matter how much calcium you're taking.
Mm-hmm.
And many times people are calcium deficient, and they still get kidney stones. It's because your body's trying to neutralize
The
this
acidity,
acid.
Yeah.
And a lot of
I
those
think
people
it's
drinking
responsible
sodas.
for just about all disease. Just about.
Well, if you break things down into an atomic structure, well, yeah. If we maintain a negative charge and some homeostasis or balance in our body with what we eat, in fact, the juicing is very good. And if
we'll have to address that a little bit here too.
If you use a good, especially organics, and there's still a debate on whether or not juicing gets rid of the pesticides or condenses the pesticides.
I think it changes the whole nature of the diet is what's beginning to happen. For example, one of the types of diets that is being advocated for detoxification, and now I really understand why, and that's fruits, berries, and melons. Dr. Morse, for example, talks about that. And if you think about what's coming out of the fruits, berries, and melons, or the juicing, it's actually the type of easy water that we're talking about.
The fluid that all these nutrients are dissolved
Yes.
in is hexagonal, which is essentially the easy water. Now, the juice, of course, is not the easy water because it's not just clean water with negative charge. It has other components
All
in it.
kinds of vitamins and minerals.
But the foundation of the water that this stuff is diluted in is hexagonal, easy type water, or negatively charged. So that's one reason why. And then there's all these people saying, "Oh, juicing is bad. It's too much sugar. It condenses all this into." But there's people curing cancer
Baloney.
by doing it.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, the Gerson Institute is a big advocate of juicing, and they have cured cancer, but they had to move to Mexico in order to be able to do it,
That's
which is a
right.
shame.
Same with what was his name?
Huxley?
No, he had the hospital Santa Monica down there in Rosarito Beach. it'll come to me later.
Okay.
It wasn't something I
Okay.
expected
But
to talk about.
there was a man, I believe it. I hope that's
Donsbach, that's the thing. Don Donsbach has been known for curing cancer for 30 years. Now I'm sure he's retired by now. I think his kids are running the deal. And he was a naturopath and a chiropractor, and I don't know how he kept up with all the research. And that guy was always on top of everything, and he would. The focus there. The interesting thing is the focus was, rather than addressing the disease so much and putting all your energy into that, you may have to intervene to keep the body alive long enough to rebuild health. Because health and disease don't coexist. So focus on rebuilding health.
Exactly. And
And you get rid of
diet
the
is
disease.
so important, as well as water, pure water and pure food.
Well, excuse me. Well, wait, not pure, because the definition
Well,
of pure is
okay,
H2, not
okay,
H3O2.
Now you're going. You know what I mean.
But do the listeners know?
Well, now that they discovered this new type of water, it's definitely, it explains a lot, especially with the juicing and especially with what the Gerson Institute was doing.
And juicing does not mean something that you buy in a bottle.
Exactly, because they pasteurize it. And plus they have
it's
probably irradiated all the fruits and vegetables as well. There's so many things that they do to our food that makes it dead food,
Yeah.
just like dead water.
Yep. And it's no wonder that we have such rampant disease in our country. You know,
We
there's,
have horrible statistics right now compared to other countries.
There's over 2 million deaths a year in the U.S. from cardiac disease. And Professor Kawada Kejiru?
I have no
I'm
idea.
I'm not Japanese.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
do
good
pretty
at
good with
pronouncing
it,
some
but
of those names.
but he has stated that up to 15% of cardiac disease or cardiac death can be alleviated just by drinking the properly structured water. See, the Orient has been known
Wow.
about structured water and
For
has
quite
been
some
on this
time.
for quite some time. They actually license them as medical devices. The hospitals they have the machines that make it, and you consume it immediately, so you don't have that deterioration factor. And they have proven over and over again. I've got a whole list of research right here in front of me of structured water, or this ionized water, being beneficial for kidney disease, for liver disease, for heart disease, for everything.
You name it.
Because it's the reason why you name it is
Yes.
because it's the foundation of what our body's made out of. We're made out of water. We're like, if you start calculating in how much the brain is made of water, and even things that we think are solid, like bone and all, we're getting upwards to 99% water, or the molecules in our body are water molecules.
And there are a few people out there, and I know this is hard for many to believe, that are existing on water and sunlight alone. Now, I don't think I'd want to do that because that's not much fun. I enjoy eating, but
and I find that hard. I'd like to see some scientific data on that, because remember years ago you had the breatharian guy.
We always say that about scientific data, but there's so much scientific fraud out there. You have to really take a close look at who's doing the studies.
And look at the study. But I have an advantage in that I have the background to be able to look at that and
I
say,
do too.
yeah, this doesn't sound right. Let me dig a little deeper. And then you see enough and go, nah,
Yeah, I always
fraud.
look at who funded it
Yeah.
and the methodology.
And then what did they come up with? And do the pieces fit? Because so many times, if you've got enough of a background, you can look at the pieces and go, these don't fit right.
Exactly, especially if you're,
And then you look a little deeper into other things. You always want to read both sides.
Yes.
And then you come to a conclusion. And I would like to see something on what that guy's doing, because I remember there
There's
was
more
years
than one
ago
person.
the
There's a
breatharian.
woman in Seattle that was talked about on one of the Dr. Pollack's. Pollack, is it
Pollock.
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 Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Dr. Pollock.
Yeah.
But anyway, he talks about a woman, I think it was in Seattle, that has been doing just that. So maybe we'll have to look into that.
Well, the
and
interesting thing
report
is
back.
with that in Pollock's work, that membrane, that hydrophilic membrane, only created a certain width of exclusion zone, the clean zone.
Yeah, I
and
remember
charged,
seeing that. Too bad
but
we
if-
can't show pictures.
Right, but if you introduce light, or basically photon energy, then it enlarges that
Yes. It's
that
like
exclusion zone.
it's actually energized.
It energizes it. Yeah. What
Maybe.
it's doing is adding negative ions from an outside source, from the light, and it expands that charged area of water.
They were talking about how capillaries can keep flowing for up to an hour after death, and we're just going, what's going on here? Why does that happen? How does that happen? And they were saying that light drives blood.
Well, light drives everything.
It drives
really.
everything. It energizes things.
It's where the energy that keeps the earth alive comes from. Without it, it would die. Everything would die. So the plants, photosynthesis, we do a form of that.
We do.
And if without sunlight, you're not going to be very healthy. Number one, it helps you produce vitamin D. And without
Yes,
vitamin
and
D,
that's
you're not
big.
going to be healthy.
And that's why most Americans are deficient in vitamin D.
And here's an interesting side note on that. One reason why is everybody's using these sunscreens.
Exactly, which
Well-
are chemicalized, and another thing that your body has to detox.
But it also blocks more of where
the
you
good
need.
kind of sunlight.
That's right. I think it's UVA is what you want, and that's what produces vitamin D. UVB is what'll burn you, and doesn't. It's not helpful. That's
I
like
always
the
get
bad
those two
UV.
mixed up. So
Yeah, and I may be reversed on that as well.
I don't know why.
I'd have to
It's-
look that
it's
up
one
to
of-
make
I've
sure I
looked
was
it up
right.
a dozen times, and I still haven't got it. Every once in a while, I forget. Oh, wait a minute, which one is it now? This one produces vitamin D. This one is not as good for you. But either way, make a long story short, we're being discouraged from going out into the sun.
And the sunscreens block the UVA, the good one.
Exactly.
So no wonder people are vitamin D deficient. And yeah, it's rampant. Blood tests are done all the time. Oh, you're D deficient. Well, how can that be? I get out
and
in the
that
sun.
destroys your immunity too. I mean, it's so important.
Oh, there was when that what was this? Probably about what was that 4 or 5 years ago, when that really heavy. I think they were calling it a form of a swine flu. Then people were dying from this.
From what was that? I didn't.
I think they were calling it a form of swine flu.
Oh,
back then.
okay.
And one of my patients, his wife, everybody loved her. She worked in the health business. She was a nurse, but I don't think she worked in a hospital setting. I think it was one of those other kind of, home cares or something.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to get the flu shot to keep her job. Well, the flu shot was giving people the flu. So next thing you know, she's got the
Exactly.
flu. Next thing you know, she's in the hospital. Next thing you know, she's in a coma.
Oh
And
my.
I told this fella, I'm not going to say his name, and
No, you
if
don't
he was
have to.
listening,
This
he
is
know who it is. It's a very
Yeah.
sad story. I said, you've got to get vitamin D in her. And he said, well, I can run it by the doctor. I said, the doctor's probably going to poof on it, but do whatever you have to do. Put it in her mouth, get her to swallow it, dissolve it in saline and inject it into her IV, but you need to get her vitamin D. That's the only way people are curing this stuff. And there's case after case that high doses of vitamin D knock this flu out. And guess what?
Did he do it?
He didn't do it, and she died.
Oh.
And I'm not saying that blaming him. I'm blaming the system that
I agree.
kept him from doing
What's important?
what he knew was right.
Because for the
Yeah.
longest time, doctors have poo-pooed anything that's considered nutritional.
Well, if it's not chemicals, that's the only place you get health is health.
Yeah, and we can thank the
from
Rockefeller
chemicals.
Foundation and
Yeah.
Carnegie Foundation for that. And the Kingpin is no longer with us, and I can't.
Thank goodness.
I can't say that makes me sad. It makes me happy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's that evil seems to run in the family, so we're still not.
Yeah, we're still not free and clear yet. But I've also read some things this morning that's looking really good in that regard. So I hope it continues.
On another note, too, on the disease thing, there's about 800,000 new cases of diabetes every year.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Besides here
Alkaline
with
water,
this water would.
the energized water, the Japanese have known that it helps with diabetes. It helps to balance the blood sugar. In many cases, completely reverses it.
It almost seems like a miracle cure in many ways. I mean, I hate to take it that far, but it's done some absolutely amazing things.
Well, when you address the basic foundational needs of an organism, it creates a structure that the rest of the body can build on. Without it, everything is kind of you keep trying to build walls, and they're crumbling on one side while you're building the other, and then you got to run over and rebuild that wall that crumbled, and now the one you just finished is crumbling.
Which is
You
why
have
it's
to build
so
a
important
foundation.
what people put in their mouth.
Yes, and that also goes into, and we'll have hopefully a show on the pulse electromagnetic field technology. That works on
Oh.
such a foundational level, stimulating stem cells and all that, and energizing the ATP, that it's almost like another miracle cure. It can be good for just about anything because it works on such a basic foundational cellular level. It supports, if you support the individual cells, then the rest of it takes care of itself because it just builds itself the way it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to address, let's say I'll use a building as an analogy, if you're trying to address the roof when the foundation and the walls are falling,
What good's the roof going to do?
yeah, I mean, you can build the roof all you want and you still don't have a house.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to get the foundation, and then the rest of it can be built and it'll stay there. And the beauty of our body is it's a self-healing organism given the right tools.
Self-healing, yes.
But it can't do that if you don't give it the building blocks to do it with.
And, you know, we have, the Medical Association has really created a mentality that a pill will fix everything. And you can take as many pills as you want, but if you're constantly still putting, you know, all kinds of soda into your body, all kinds of toxins, acidic food, that kind of thing, it's not going to help.
And if your garden isn't growing really well, you start looking at the soil. You start looking at, you know, you give it water. You want to look at nutrients.
People don't take
but-
care of their body
but
as
we
well
don't
as
do
they
that
take
for-
care of their animals or their garden,
That's
for that
right.
matter.
That's
It's
right.
really sad.
And you know, veterinarians are, well, at least used to be. I don't know about now, but especially older vets, they're
more astute
they're
about
great
nutrition.
nutritionists. Yeah, they'll
Yeah,
look
they
at
are.
the cow. Oh, your cows are deficient in magnesium. You need to supplement their magnesium in their diet,
Yes.
and all of a sudden their cows are healthy and strong.
Yes.
Well, in humans, they're going to say, well, you need to take this pill.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. We've just gotten that mentality so ingrained in us that people aren't looking at the things that they are putting into their mouth on a daily basis, whether it be the fluids or the food, and that can make all the difference in the world.
And that's why it's so important to consume good water. And at least
Yes,
I've-
water is the basis of life. I mean,
and it has to be consistent. Not well,
you
I
can
drank
go
a bottle
without
last
food
week.
a lot longer than you can go without water.
Yeah, and another thing is people, I get this all the time. Well, how much water do you drink? Oh, I drink a lot of water. Well, how much is a lot? Oh, 2-3 glasses.
Yeah, there you go.
No, you should, as a basis, just a basic foundation of water consumption. You should take your poundage of your body. If you're, let's say, you weigh 200 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
you should drink 100 ounces
Of water. Yeah,
of
that's
water
a good formula.
minimum.
I like that. It's simple.
Minimum. Now that's
Minimum.
not easy to do, and you're going to be going to the bathroom a bit, but that's
Just don't
what
drink it at night before you go to bed either.
Depends on if you want to get up early or not.
Unless you like getting up a lot. No, I don't know.
They call, what was that called? The Indian alarm clock.
Yeah.
Guys use it in the military. They drink a quart of water before going to bed. They know they're going to be awake in a few hours.
That'll do it. So look, shall we get back to real water for a minute?
Sure. Yeah.
And again, the electron technology.
That is the proprietary aspect that John discovered on. Somehow he's able to infuse the water with electrons, creating the negative ion charge in the water. But there's something magic that he's done that is able to keep that stable. Now, these water ionizers, these water alkaline machines, they do that too. They ionize the water, and that ROP, ORP, excuse me, oxidative reduction potential, doesn't stay around for long. And somehow this real water's figured out how to stabilize it. And
Yeah, that's critical because otherwise it doesn't last.
it's good for
I mean,
for 6 to 9 months.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're not keeping your water that long. You're drinking it.
Well, there is a problem with it, though, that you don't want to keep it in the trunk of your car in the middle of summer because the heat will undo those electron bonds, and you'll turn it into
Definitely.
regular purified water. Oxygen will also break down those bonds, and so I always tell people, if you're going to open a bottle, you don't need to guzzle it, but consume it. Don't leave it around and pick it up tomorrow or 2 days from now,
'cause
thinking
it's
you're still
gonna lose
drinking
the
good
benefits
water.
that
Yeah.
you bought it for.
And I wish that someday they might be able to discover a couple little pellets that are hydrophilic that they could drop in there, So then it would maintain itself. And if you exposed it to sunlight, which deteriorates the quality of that real water, if you expose it to sunlight, then it would actually enhance that, because it would create a broader easy zone. Within the bottle. But that's just not realistic at this point in the game, because that membrane is so that surface is so expensive and fragile. It's easily destroyed.
Now, because that water is not only alkaline, but it's also the H3O2, the type of water that our cells require, allowing your body to take it in without having to convert anything, that is going to be the most beneficial type of fluid to consume.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Far and
it
away.
makes it so much easier for your body to take care of the chemical reactions it needs to take care of, to detox itself.
And that's big today.
It makes it easy on your body, and people need to wake up and stop killing themselves. We've got so many diseases
like I said,
are
our
just...
American healthcare is disease care. And
understand, too, that disease care continues to profit from the disease.
Exactly.
So they have no interest in really seeing you well, because they're not going to make any money if you're well.
Exactly.
They don't want you drinking water like this.
That's so sad.
So many of the naysayers talking about this are...
Well, then you're a quack or something like that when you...
Well, that's their go-to. Yeah, as chiropractors,
that's
we were quacks and cultists for the longest time,
Yeah.
and the beauty is that their research has proven everything that as chiropractors we were called quacks and cultists for.
Right.
So we were right after all, and they will never admit it when you confront it, you present it in that way, but in a discussion, let's call it, and you ask certain questions, if they know their research, they have to answer the questions with their own data that substantiates what we're saying.
Exactly. And one of the things that this water would do, it would help with the lymph system
Everything.
significantly, wouldn't it?
It
That's
makes
so
all
important.
body functions work better.
Yeah.
It really is amazing, and I'm glad to see that it's finally coming out. See, I've been drinking ionized water for 13, 14 years or better now, because that's when I finally discovered. Now, there's more and more information coming out, which is great, because then you can help explain this, hopefully in a way that people can accept. And then the next step is hopefully take some sort of action. Because knowledge is it's not power. Knowledge is knowledge by itself.
You can lead the horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Yep. Knowledge
Even
is
if
only
it's the right
power
kind
if
of
you put it
water.
into action. That's right.
And not to mention the fact we have so many issues to deal with to help people obtain optimum health when it comes to water, because we have at this time crops that are being watered with fracking water, which is full of chemicals and nasty things. We have fluoridated water, which is banned in other countries. We are so far behind, and it's all because of the profit motive in our country. I'm sorry to say, but that is the problem.
That's
and
a
the
big part of it,
factors.
yeah. And well, then there's ignorance too, but much of the ignorance is created from the profit margin.
Exactly, because somebody comes out with the truth, and then you got a half a dozen people coming out and saying, "Oh, that's not true. Or you can't prove it. We need more randomized, controlled studies to prove that." And blah blah blah. Sometimes I'm beginning to think some of those anecdotal things are a lot better than we'd like to believe, because we've been conditioned to believe it has to be double-blind controlled study in order to say anything. And
that's always good to have.
It's
because
nice, but
it's
do
hard
we
to
always
argue
have
against.
To wait forever to get one?
No, I've seen. I've been over 30 years in practice. I've seen so much in practice, and you can call that anecdotal, because I don't have the time to put together double-blind studids. I'm too busy getting people well.
I saw this picture, a cartoon with two scientists with blinders on.
Yeah, double-blind. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, double-blind. Yeah. That was pretty cute.
But I've seen so many miracles, and it's all about just turn the power back on and get out of the way. And when I first got out of school, I was real gung-ho, and chiropractic's the answer. It can cure anything, and
I was that way about nutrition. I had a lot to learn, though.
Yeah, it's a
and
much
it's not
bigger.
as idealistic as you like to believe.
It's a much bigger picture than that, especially in today's world. But the reason I keep doing what I'm doing is because even with good water, if your central nervous system isn't communicating, if your brain's not communicating with your body, it can't even use the good water.
Exactly.
So that's why I keep doing what I'm doing. I turn the power on, and then your body is actually connected so that it can do something. And then you start putting in the proper building blocks.
You put in
so
the
that
proper
it can,
water, and
Yep.
now we have it. We know what it is.
Yep.
Okay. You put in the proper food, and that's a big issue nowadays because there's so many factors that are coming into play that people aren't even aware of, and glyphosate is one of those, and that's interfering with all kinds of metabolism in the body.
Cancer,
Diabetes.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't break down. Yeah, it's in our water table because it's been a lot of it used out here, and it doesn't break down. It ends up in the water supply.
Yes, it's people think they can wash it off. You cannot wash it off.
Organic, and we've talked
They
about
lied.
this.
Yeah,
people say,
brought this up
well, there is
before."
no real organic, but the thing is, at least with organic, it's exposed minimally. You know, with the stuff in the air and all, of course, it is getting some bad components
But
on
they-
it.
I-
But
I've-
what would you rather have? A pile that's as big as a dump truck of bad stuff,
That your body has
and,
to process.
and a spoonful of good food, or come over to the other side where there's a truckload of good food, nutrition, and only a spoonful of bad stuff.
Exactly. I mean, it seems pretty simple to me, but I may be a little biased in that regard.
Yeah.
Just like things that you don't think about, for example, with fluoride, which has been identified as a neurotoxin by Harvard researchers. Okay, people respect Harvard and many others, but there's so many places that you get it that you're not aware of. I mean, you have mouthwash that's got fluoride in it. You've got toothpaste that's got fluoride in it. Any of the food that has been processed with water, and it was fluoridated water, you're going to be picking it up there. It is appalling to me at this day and age that we still have fluoride in our water.
And they use it as a pesticide as well, but then it's good to drink.
That's probably how I got started in the first place. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you hear that? It's also in rat poison, isn't it?
No,
is that rat, or is that chlorine?
That's the rat poison is the
Okay.
anticoagulant blood Coumadin.
Coumadin. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I got that one mixed up. But anyway, fluoride is in so many different things, and it's very disturbing. As a matter of fact, I even heard that in Europe they don't even use chlorine either. I'm going to have to research that a little further,
Yeah.
but I know chlorine is a problem too, because very young in my career, I remember reading a story on chickens where they had chlorinated water versus non-chlorinated water, and the chickens that were consuming the chlorinated water developed hardening of the arteries in a very
Yes.
short period of time.
Yes, that is
I
a
never
factor.
forgot that.
It is a factor in atherosclerosis.
Yes.
That particularly combines with the activated xanthine oxidase in homogenized pasteurized milk.
That's
And-
a whole nother story. They
Yeah.
always say milk does your body good. Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We have
Well,
to look at that too.
There,
It's
there
what
are
they do to the-
components in raw milk that
raw.
unpasteurized, unhomogenized, that can be beneficial, but you think about it, and if you think of things naturally, that milk is meant for baby cows, and even baby cows won't touch it once they're weaned. Why are we drinking? We're the only species that continues to drink milk past.
Yes, and we
Yeah.
also have a very high rate of osteoporosis, as do other countries that drink have a high consumption of milk.
Well, that also ties into water. If you're drinking purified water, it's pulling the minerals out of your body, and it's going to contribute to osteoporosis.
And who were to know? People were trying to get away from fluoride and contaminated water, so they started drinking the purified water, and it's like, oh my gosh, here we go. Here's another thing.
And another point with the purified, speaking of this fluoride and other impurities, you put that in a plastic bottle. That's the nice thing about real water. It's BPA free. And
Yes,
it's
I noticed that
recycled
right away
multiple
because I
uses.
look for that now
Yeah.
too. That's very important as well. In fact,
But-
I've seen boxed water.
Oh, not
you
from
seen
them
it?
though. Yeah, but
Yeah, I know,
the
not
problem
from them,
is
but-
that the plastics that the stuff is in, purified water, being that it's empty and likes to pull things to it, it pulls the chemicals out of the plastic more readily than than let's say even tap
Yes.
water would.
And those are the endocrine disruptors and all kinds of
Oh, yeah.
issues. So that's a big problem too. But anyway, that water that we're talking about is called
Real water.
real water. So
Yeah, in fact, you could go to their website that is www.drinkrealwater.com. Yeah, that's what it is.
yes, and
I
quite a
always
few
think just real
stores were listed that actually
I
carry
was
it.
surprised. Yeah, I looked it up this
I
morning.
can,
It was-
honestly can't say I remember seeing it, but I'm going to have to go take a look again.
yeah.
And I think Albertsons and Smith's. I'm going to have to look closer because I don't remember seeing it.
I don't remember seeing it, but then I don't go and buy water at the grocery store either.
You don't have to. Okay, well,
So
I-
let me close with tell people, do yourself a favor. Stop drinking those sodas and that purified water that everybody purified that has such a great sound to it. You're
Yes, it
hurting
does.
you're hurting yourself. Start doing some research. Go to that website. See what they have to say. And I don't know if they have home delivery in Pahrump yet.
I
But
think
you
they do because I saw that water at Happy Nails.
In a 5-gallon jug?
I believe so.
Oh, well, then they must have home delivery here.
They must,
Beautiful.
unless
So-
they purchased it in Vegas, and I'll have to ask them. But anyway, I'm very happy to present this information to our listening public. Again, let's do the name of that website again, drinkingrealwater.com.
Drinkrealwater.com.
Drinkrealwater.com.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to come to a close because our time is up for today. So thank you very much for listening, and please tune in next week. And thank you, Dr. Glenn.
Well, I hope it was helpful.
Oh, it's very helpful. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again.
Pleasure.
The opinions, views, and conclusions expressed in this show are those of the show host and co-host and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of KPFV FM or its affiliates.
Stay informed on what's happening now.
Where it always feels good.
Right here on 98.1 FM, where freedom rocks your boat.